Jacqueline with the Fable Tree here. This week we are doing a boho style Oh Christmas Tree sign. And I will say with just a couple of tweaks, this would work really well for a farmhouse decor as well. So I would say instead of the scored design that I'll show you, go ahead and just do simple shiplap lines right across and maybe do a different color scheme. I could see a pale gray backing with white snow and a forest green tree and a red sparkle star. Okay, whatever. You get the idea, right? You could easily adapt this to a farmhouse style. So let me just take you through our plan here. We're going to start by making the Christmas tree and the star. All right, then we'll make the backing, and I'll show you how to score a boho style design into the backing. We'll add our wording, and then I'll show you how to do the swoop of snow at the bottom. All right, this sign does have lots of steps, but it's pretty much the same technique applied in different ways over and over, so it shouldn't be too complicated. Follow along with me. The first thing we'll do is make our Christmas tree. So come over here to whatever shape tool you have going on, click and hold until they all pop up, and you'll want the polygon tool. Okay, make sure that you have a polygon with 3 sides, also known as a triangle. Okay, and we'll come up and use our selection tool, select our triangle, and come over to the properties panel. Our first triangle is going to be just 1 inch wide, and make sure you've got that proportion lock on so that it stays an equilateral triangle with all 3 sides the same length. Then I want you to copy and paste your triangle. This next triangle we want to be 1.5 inches wide, okay? And then you can paste again, just move it out of the way. And we'll want this one to be 2 inches wide. Okay, so let's go ahead to our view, show grid, and even our view snap to grid. Okay, now the first thing it does is reminds me that I did not remove our fill. So go ahead, you can select these one by one or all together and just come over and change it from a white fill to a none fill. Okay, that's a very important difference for Glowforge design. All right, now again, we have our snap to grid on. So we're going to go ahead and just pull this first little triangle down to a grid line. And we're going to move this, pardon, got away from me there. Now we're going to pull this next one over to a grid line, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I'm not doing it a full inch apart. I want the bottom of this line to be 7/8 of an inch below the bottom of this line, of this triangle, okay? And the same here, okay? And make sure you don't do it on the 7/8 inch line again, because you want it 7/8 of an inch below that line. All right, so eyeball it, see if it looks nice to you. If it does, select all 3, come over to your your Pathfinder panel and click to unite. All right, now if that's not popping up for you, just go to Window, Pathfinder, and a whole window will pop up. All right, so this is pretty good, but most Christmas trees have like a little bit of a curve in each of these. So we're gonna come over here and use our curvature tool. If you don't have that, you can click this edit toolbar and search for it and it'll be right there. So click that curvature tool, click somewhere toward the center here. I like to pick one that's really close to a corner of the grid line since we have our snap to grid on, and just bring it in a smidge and then do the same thing on that side, okay? This one looks like the best place. Again, we see that little intersection of the grid line here. So I'm gonna just grab it and pull it in. I do not worry about this being perfectly even or what have you. I just kind of eyeball, okay? And count on my snap to grid to help. Okay, now we have some really nice curved ones. And you could even, I didn't do this, but you, on my final product, but you can do that and add a little curve here if you'd like. Okay, now we need to create the trunk of the tree. So that would be a nice rectangle tool. You can just eyeball the width of that. Doesn't have to be any particular width, just whatever looks good to you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off our snap to grid. And that's just because I like to overlap things just a smidge to make very sure that I'm not gonna have any weirdness when I go to Pathfinder Unite. All right, check it out. Now I have a lovely Christmas tree. Okay, we'll resize that later on as we need to, but for now I think it's pretty good. Let's create the star at the top of the Christmas tree and then merge them together. We're not going to unite them. I'll show you what we're going to do in a second. So come to that rectangle tool, come down here to star tool, Okay, and this is pretty good. So you want a 4-pointed star. Radius 1 should be roughly 0.2 inches. Radius 2 should be 0.7 inches. You can play around with this and find dimensions that you enjoy more. That's fine. I'm going to just leave it like that. Okay, now I'm just going to move this over. I'm going to copy. So Command C or Control C, depending on if you have a Mac or PC. Edit, paste in place. What that does is it makes sure that it pastes right on top of that original star. And then I'm going to come over to the properties panel and type in 45 degrees so that it rotates. If you don't have this panel, go to Object, Transform, Rotate, and you can find it there. Okay, I'm not in love with this at this point, which is fine. So one thing I'm going to do is get my direct select tool, grab this, select just that bottom point. And so you see that I clicked it first, and now I'm going to just drag it down a little bit. I want it to be a little longer. Okay, and then what I want to do is take this back star and just make it a little smaller. So maybe a 0.75. All right, that looks good. So whenever you're happy with your star shape, not the size, don't worry about the size yet, the star shape, go ahead and Pathfinder Unite it. All right. And then we're going to make it much smaller. So select it and then Shift, click, and drag to resize it. Okay, we shift so that it maintains those proportions and we don't have to worry about it getting all uneven. All right, so put it on your tree. Go ahead and use your Align tool here. So select both of those. Use your horizontal Align Center tool just to make sure that it's absolutely perfect. Okay, and now that it's on here, you can eyeball and see if you really like the shape of your star and even the size of your star. And I'm actually going to resize mine to be a tiny bit smaller. Something like that is fine with me. Okay, so now what you want to do is subtract the star from the tree. Okay, and what that does is ensures that when you put it together, it'll fit together kind of like a puzzle instead of stacking on top. You don't want that much dimension going on. So I'm going to just select both of these, go ahead and swap my fill and stroke, grab my star or select my star, come to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front to make sure it's on the very front. Okay, go ahead and copy it. So Command C on a Mac, Control C on a PC. Select both of these. Come over to Pathfinder or again, Window Pathfinder and choose minus front. And then come up to Edit, Paste in Place. Okay, and now you can switch it back to a fill. Back to a stroke. You can, in fact, if you prefer, keep it like this, but assign it a color so you can see how it would look when it's all pieced together. Okay, and I'm going to do a gold, so something like that. All right, not so bad. So now you have these, and to cut them, we absolutely will turn those back to strokes and separate them out. Okay, but we're not quite to that point yet. So let's go ahead and create our backing. So use the ellipse tool, and I like a 10 by 10. So pretty much the biggest that you can really reliably cut on a Glowforge. I guess you could go up to like 10.9 by 10.9, but I don't like to be stressed out about my life, so I'm not doing it. And I'm just going to change this to black and just a stroke with no fill. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create our scored design on the back. I'm going to come back up to View and Snap to Grid, and that just makes it easier to make sure everything is where it needs to be. And I want these to be on grid lines. Okay, so centered on grid lines. The first thing I'm going to do is come over to my line segment tool and turn it green because that is the color that I use in my designs to indicate a score. And you can just click and drag, all right, to get that middle line. Now, if you don't have your snap to grid on, or if you just want to be really sure that it's going to be perfectly straight, you can hold down Shift as you do it, and then it only lets you do it on 45-degree increments. Okay, so that's another good way to do it. Okay, and now that we've got this one, you can go ahead and turn off that snap to grid just because it doesn't let you get it, really perfectly intersected with the edges if you've got that snap to grid, because you see that the edge of the circle is not actually on grid lines. All right, so I'm going to use that hold down Shift, click and drag, and just get it as close as you can to the edge of the circle, and then we can kind of finesse it a little bit later on. Now, unfortunately, things do get a little complicated sometimes when you go to create more lines. So I always have a habit of just clicking my select tool, clicking off, and then coming back and doing it. Is that annoying? It absolutely is, but less annoying than sometimes getting tripped up by the ends and beginnings of new lines. Okay, so you'll see me do that. You can do it if you'd like. And I'm just doing spacing mine every 2 inches, starting at the very top and just every 2 inches on the way down. Okay. And again, get it as close as you can without stressing about it. Okay. And we'll come and finesse that in just a second. And this last one probably won't actually show under our snow, but I like it to be there anyway. Okay. So once you've got this half done, go ahead and just zoom in really closely so that you can make sure that your lines extend as far as you need to. You don't want them to cut off before the edge here. It's okay with me if it extends a little bit past that because, you know, there's not that much wasted wood if you go beyond a bit. Okay, I think that one is pretty darn close, but let's just make sure. And again, you want to hold down that shift key to keep it perfectly on the right angle. Okay, this one is a little further than it technically does need to be, which is, again, not a big deal for me, but just in case it is for you or for customers or anything like that. And then this one is fine already. Okay, cool. So the reason that we didn't go ahead and do the other side is because you don't need to just redo all of that. Go ahead and select just your diagonal lines. You don't want that center score line to be selected because you don't need it twice. Go ahead and just object group it, then copy, paste, and then come over to your properties panel and use this flip horizontally to flip it horizontally, or go to object, transform, reflect, and use it that way. Now you can just drag it, and you want that smart guide to show that it's perfectly in place. Okay, and now you have a beautiful backing. I recommend at this point that you select all your score lines and just object group it, okay, just so that they don't get jostled or anything like that later on. Whew. Okay, now let's go ahead and do our wording. And so we're going to do, I'm going to use Kindred font, and I think I'm trying to decide which one I used. I think I used bold, and let's just bump that size up to like an 80 for now, and we can resize beyond that if we need to. Okay, so here is our O, and then you can change it. So I'm just highlighting the O, and it gives you the options for the glyphs. Okay, and you can also come up to type glyphs to see all of your options. Okay, so again, my words are going to say, oh, Christmas tree. Yours can be whatever you want. And I always do mine in separate text boxes so that I can place everything precisely rather than kind of counting on whatever they use. Okay, so I'm going to do something like that, and then we'll do tree. And I really like this font and how it kind of nestles some of the words up under. So let's see here. Take a little time to arrange your words really nicely. And then once you're happy with their arrangement, go ahead and select all of them. Right click, create outlines, and then just out of good habit, go ahead, Pathfinder Unite it. This isn't a script font, but in case you're using a script font, that's what you want to do. And then we're going to place it on a racking. Now, this isn't quite big enough, is it? So shift, click at that corner, and make it larger. Okay, we're just going to kind of scoot it around until we are pretty happy with it. Make it a little bit bigger. And I'm actually, this is another reason that we grouped our score lines before. I'm going to select all of this and horizontally align center. And actually, I think that these letters are a little left heavy looking, so I'm going to scoot it over even though it isn't perfectly centered. Whew, okay, so now let's take our little Christmas tree here. And I kind of regret making it that ugly color scheme, to be honest, but that's okay. And I'm going to just make it a little smaller. and then place it here-ish. Okay. So now we have everything except for our snow bit. Okay, our little snow swoopy swoop thing at the bottom. So go ahead over here to your shape tools and click the rectangle tool. And let's see, we're gonna do something like, let's see, something like that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just make it a, I want it snowy but visible. Okay, I'm gonna make it a super light gray for now. All right, so we're gonna use that curvature tool again. Okay, and again, just eyeball this. It doesn't have to look precisely like mine. So you'll see that here, I put a curvature here and it kind of curved the whole thing, but we're also going to curve over here, curve it down, and now it looks more like a snowy hill. Okay, and now move it to where it looks nice with your tree. You can even object, arrange, bring to front that tree. And in fact, we want to do that because we're going to do some cutouts here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is take just the snow and just the Christmas tree. Don't worry about the star. And in fact, if you've got this grouped for some reason, ungroup it now. Okay, actually, we need to go ahead and select our Christmas tree and copy it. Now select these two, minus front, and then edit, paste in place. And again, that's just so that we don't have snow with a tree stacked on top with a star stacked on top. We want it to all nestle in and be one layer. Okay, and now that you've done that, you can click this back circle thing, and if you've got it grouped with your score lines, just ungroup it real quick because all we want is the circle. All right, and try to think. Let's go ahead and copy the circle just in case you need it. So select that. Select your whatever this is, the snow. So the snow, sorry. And go ahead over to your Pathfinder tool, and this time you're going to use crop. Okay, and that did not work properly, so let's see here. Go ahead and switch your fill and your stroke here. That might have been the reason. Okay, and now we have a crop. There we go. And you'll want to select this bit that was cropped. You can see that the stroke is still here. It's just a little strange, right? So come up to Object and ungroup it, and then select this weirdness here and just delete that. And now you want to go Edit, Paste in Place, and it puts your circle back in the right spot. Okay? You can move this, change this color back to that pale gray if you really want to. All right, and at this point, we can start separating things out into different documents, and I always tend to group mine by color. So for my final project, my back circle is actually going to be like a sapele color, okay, and so we're going to just turn that stroke off. I'm just going to show you to visualize it, send to back, okay. These score lines are going to be in the back there. These are actually both going to be kind of a pale, I want to say tan, but we're going to get as close as we can there. This is going to be pink, and this is going to be sparkly gold. All right, so you can do whatever, but just kind of, you can even play around with your color scheme right here before you actually cut it out and realize, oh, I don't like those colors together. Okay, so once you've got everything nice and you like how it looks, we're going to go ahead and view, just turn off the grid, just kind of make it less cluttery looking. So I'm scooching it over, and I'm not going to be copy paste deleting because I'm going to add scored backing lines here. All right, so I'm going to take the snow and my letters, which are going to cut out of the same material, copy into a brand new document, paste, and then just switch the fill and stroke. And I have a system, I always like black to be my fill and my cut color. And you can just scooch things up so that they, you can fit as much as possible on the same piece of material, okay? And I even went to ungroup my letters so I can move all of that down, all right? So feel free to just play around with this until it all fits nicely and then save it in a way that makes sense to you. Again, we're leaving it there, all right? But we're gonna do that same process with our Christmas tree. Okay, so let's pretend that that's a brand new document. Go ahead and swap your fill and stroke, change it to black or whatever your cut color is, and then again, repeat that process with your star here. So, anything that needs to be cut needs to be a stroke and not a fill. Okay. Visually, it looks nice over here as a fill, but that doesn't cut out. All right. Now what we're going to do is select all of this stuff. Okay. So your snow, your tree, your star, and your words. Come up to Object, Path, Offset Path. I usually like a negative 0.04 inch offset path. Okay, negative so that it's nestled inside so that when you cut out your words or shapes and put them on top, those score lines are not going to show. All right, so do that. Do not unselect or click or don't do anything yet. Okay, before you do anything, come on up here, select green. You want the other one to be empty, and then come down here and swap it because you actually want it to be a green stroke. Now, there are many things that you can do, techniques that you can do to kind of keep the score placement lines and get rid of everything else. But here's what I find is the easiest. Go ahead and copy before you click off of this. Command C on a Mac, Control C on a PC, then delete it. Then click this, assuming you've already put it into its component parts, delete, 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 and then edit, paste in place, and it's all there. All right, our final step here is our backing. We don't want that to be engraved. We want it to be cut. So swap the fill and stroke. And look, you have a backing that tells you exactly where everything should nestle in and go. You have all of your pieces ready to cut out, hopefully saved in their own documents so you can just pull it all in as you need. And your sign is going to be beautiful. I cannot wait to see what you make. You don't have to do exactly what I just did. You could do any other words. You could do different scored backing. You could do different shapes. You could do whatever. And I would love it if you would share those photos with me. You can email them to Jacqueline@thefabledtree.com or DM them to me at thefabledtree on Instagram. And I would love to share those. All right. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I know that this is a longer tutorial than usual and a little bit more complex, but take it step by step. Don't be afraid to pause or back it up, right? And of course, like the video and subscribe as well. I will see you next week.